In today's world, more than ever, women are taught to see the silence of their bodies as a warning, a sign of emptiness, failure, or loss. But what if this silence is not a void but a threshold? What if that quiet is the soul's earliest whisper, finally heard when a woman chooses, consciously or unconsciously, to step back from the hunger for validation and the endless performance of desire? When she no longer seeks attention or substitutes connection for affection, something profound begins to stir. It is not absence. It is presence. It is not a lack. It is a vast expansion. Carl Jung taught that whatever is repressed will always find another way to speak. And when the body no longer chases fleeting pleasure, the soul at last finds its voice. Have you ever noticed how women, after extended periods of solitude or abstinence, report something unexpected? A sense of heightened intuition, deeper dreams, a sensitivity that borders on mystic. That's no accident. It's an invitation, a calling. The body, no longer distracted by external touch, begins to turn inward. And in that inner territory, often forgotten, she finds parts of herself that had never been seen, not by others, not even by her. This is not just about sexuality or celibacy. This is about transmutation. It's about the inner fire that stops begging for another spark and learns to burn from within. In a society built on constant sexual affirmation, the woman who withdraws becomes a threat. She is mysterious, unknowable, no longer driven by the games of seduction. She begins to see. She sees through illusion, through emotional repetition, through the masks that relationships often demand. Jung would call this her confrontation with the shadow, the return to her unclaimed self. She no longer lives to be chosen. She begins to choose, not to be loved in return, but to love herself so fiercely that anything superficial simply dissolves. There is a silence that is not hollow. It is sacred, a silence that feels like a temple. And when the body pauses, it is not dying. It is preparing to ignite a deeper light, a fire that unsettles because it is real. A woman who lives without romantic or sexual entanglements is not empty. She may be more alive than ever before. What looks like loneliness from the outside is, on the inside, sacred communion. She is not abandoned. She is returning to herself, to her essence. It is here, in the deepest folds of that solitude, that the archetype of the wild woman awakens, the one who remembers, the one who reclaims. She is instinct, intuition, and memory. She does not perform for anyone. She simply is. Can you feel it? This path is not for everyone. It is for the woman who is exhausted from trading her essence for fleeting connection, who knows that what she's truly craving doesn't lie in another's arms, but in an encounter with her own soul. And if you've read this far, perhaps you're already closer to this path than you thought. The stillness of the body is not weakness. It's strength curling inward to become power. And once the soul starts to speak, you cannot go back. Because a woman who has heard her own soul will never again settle for a love that whispers. When she's learned to roar in silence, every woman reaches a moment when the world's noise becomes intolerable. Not the clamor outside, but the inner murmur of inherited expectations, of learned desires, of affections that were never hers. And in that sacred exhaustion, invisible to the world, the journey back to herself begins. Jung said, "What we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate." So when the body retreats, it's not breaking down. It's preparing for rebirth. She doesn't always know why she's stepping back, but she begins to feel a longing that doesn't have a name. Not a longing for a man or a night of passion, but for herself, for a version of her she hasn't yet met but already aches to become. Abstinence, then, is not a punishment. It's a portal. And on the other side is the process Jung called individuation, the sacred journey of returning to wholeness. What seems like emptiness is space, space for something real to take root. And in that space, old memories return, not as pain but as clues. Past relationships, old patterns, nights that ended in tears, they begin to reveal a deeper truth. She starts to see them not as mistakes but as signposts on the path she now walks. She is not withdrawing from life. She is rewriting her place within it. The self she's meeting is not a stranger. It's the voice that was always there, beneath the noise, beneath the longing. And now she listens. She no longer craves applause, no longer needs to be desired to feel valuable. Her value lies in the stillness she can hold, in the presence she can embody. And it's there, in that profound silence, that something almost magical is born. A force. The force of a woman who no longer begs to be chosen. And the world, faced with this kind of woman, doesn't know what to do, because she's no longer breakable. She's no longer available to manipulation. She's whole, and that's dangerous. To a world that survives on women who live in halves. Now she knows her energy isn't dormant, it's concentrated, and she enters a new consciousness. No rush, no fear, no pretending. The silence of the body is not exile. It's a new language, one only understood by those willing to descend into their own depths. Jung would say she is reconciling with the feminine, unconscious, those symbols buried under centuries of shame, now rising. This kind of transformation doesn't come from knowledge. It comes from presence, but it's not a gentle awakening. There's anguish, not loud, but persistent. When she steps away from physical intimacy, she also steps away from the identities that once anchored her. She's no longer a muse, a girlfriend, a wife. She is just herself, and that loss of label stings more than any breakup. Now abstinence feels cruel, but it is not. It's a test, a sacred ritual for the soul, and only the brave endure it. Temptation knocks, old patterns reappear. Friends don't understand. Family urges her to return to normal. But this is not isolation. This is immersion. And not everyone is ready to witness a woman descending while they skim the surface. Jung saw this moment as the ego's panic. It loses its grip. The soul rises. And many give up at this point, returning to almost love, choosing comfort over truth. But the woman who stays, through the nights of doubt, is being shaped. She is being called to break ancestral cycles, not through rebellion, but through awareness. Because real transformation always feels like tension at first. The cocoon tightens before the wings emerge. Deep within, she senses it, even if she can't explain. She's becoming. She is being born into a new form. Even if she's still afraid, even if no one understands her, there is a quiet voice that refuses to leave. A companion that can't be seen, only felt. That presence is the archetypal feminine, the anima, the ancient bridge between mystery and consciousness. She has returned, and now woman and soul begin to speak. Her body is not paused. It is in ceremony. A ceremony the modern world has forgotten, but one her spirit never did. Then something shifts, not loud, just sure. The restlessness turns into reflection. Why did I always need to be desired to feel real? Why does someone else's absence feel like suffocation? Why do I crave their gaze to remember that I exist? But the woman who continues does not use relationships as anesthesia anymore. She doesn't confuse connection with worth. She no longer offers her body in exchange for momentary company. And though this might mean more nights in silence, she understands now. Her body is not in waiting. It is in protection. It is holding space for a deeper love, a sacred one. And when that love does arrive, it won't complete her. It will complement her, because she's already whole. This new state reveals a mission, a sense that her story isn't just hers. Her silence is symbolic of every woman taught to please, to perform, to depend. Now she feels the call, not to lead, but to light the path. Because only those who found themselves in the dark can teach others not to fear it. Jung called this the full emergence of the self, the moment when the soul no longer seeks acceptance but expression. What she lost doesn't hurt anymore. Every goodbye was protection, every silence sacred, every lack a lesson. And the woman who walked through abstinence with awareness? She didn't give up love. She refined it. She no longer needs saving. She saved herself. And from that self-rescue, everything changes. What once was craving becomes choice. What once was need becomes discernment. She can love now, but she loves from overflow, not emptiness. And when love returns, it won't find a woman waiting. It will find a woman rooted, radiant, ready. Until then, she does not wait. She watches. She honors the vigil. Because now she understands. When the body falls silent, the soul begins to speak. Some silences may look cold, but they carry embers. Some absences may feel like loss, but they are fertile soil. And some women, when they withdraw from the world, don't disappear. They ignite. Because when the body quiets, it does not die. It becomes sacred ground, a place where the soul at last is free to speak. And everything that once looked like lack becomes light.